Well, it's Monday, May 11th. Welcome to the Burning Tree Program's Spotlight. Burning Tree is a family-owned organization created around one man's vision. David Elliott created Burning Tree Ranch in 1999 with a vision of helping the chronic relapsing man or woman find a life of love, service, and excellence, abundance. Burning Tree Ranch is outside of Dallas in Kaufman, Texas. It is a co-ed long-term residential treatment center. Average length of stay is 8 to 14 months with a year of transitions. In 2004, David Elliott expanded the vision of Burning Tree programs and created Burning Tree Lodge outside of Austin in Elgin, Texas. A couple of years ago, with David's vision, he brought on a gentleman named Peter Pirano, who rebranded Burning Tree Lodge, and it is now Renewal Lodge by Burning Tree. Renewal Lodge is a clinically advanced mindfulness approach to the 12 steps. It is an in-network provider with all major insurance providers here in the United States. Newest to the Burning Tree program family is Awakenings Hill Country. Awakenings Hill Country is operated by Jessica and Josh Slay. David empowered them to create a all-women's helping women residential treatment center, 30, 60, 90-day process. They're also an in-network provider. And then in Tucson, Arizona, where our founder, David Elliott, found his path to freedom, he created a program for young adults called Burning Tree West. Burning Tree West is in Tucson, about a mile and a half east of the University of Arizona campus. It has a collegiate track. So, without any further ado, we are blessed to bring on a recovery advocate and leader in this field, who I've known for several years, Gary Kaufman, one of our national business development reps, asked us to have her come on Burning Tree Spotlight. So welcome, Angela.
Hi, Eric. Thank you so much for having me on.
We're very honored. How did you have a good weekend?
I did. I had a great weekend. Mother's Day. Happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. I'm a dog mom, so I enjoyed some perks of Mother's Day myself.
Yeah, those are one of the best. I know my fiance is a animal mother also, very much so.
Yeah.
So tell us, Addiction Unlimited.
Yeah.
How did you come about creating Addiction Unlimited?
Well, I'll tell you, it was interesting. It was something I thought about for a long, long time before I actually got the courage to do it. I knew that I wanted to speak to families. I wanted to be able to answer questions. You know, I've done interventions for 12 years, and I've worked front lines in the field of addiction for that long. And I thought it would be really cool to put something together where I could just answer questions and give people a resource and the ability to learn and educate themselves kind of on their own, not only from the perspective of education and things like that, but also from personal insight as being a person with addiction myself. So I wanted to do the podcast. I thought about it forever. I was scared, of course, because I had no idea what I was doing. I didn't understand the equipment. You know, I had all those fears that everybody would have when you're thinking about a new venture. And finally, I just pulled the trigger. One of my good friends, Wade Bergquist, he started a podcast, which really fueled me, because then I had somebody to ask questions and I had a little guidance, and that made me a little more brave. And I finally pulled the trigger. I bought my equipment and I just started doing it.
So you got out of yourself.
Yeah.
and you reached out to others.
Absolutely.
And then others came to you and helped you down this path.
Yeah,
the the essence of what recovery is, right?
It's the essence of all of it. And, you know, at first I just had my friends, right? Gary Kaufman, you mentioned. Gary Kaufman was on one of my really early episodes. And I thought, you know, if I can just sit down and have these conversations with friends, give a lot of great insight of addiction and recovery and what it's like on a daily basis, you know, what it's like to live this life and be one of us. And I just had these great conversations, but I had zero vision when I started the podcast. I had no idea how long I would do it. I didn't know where it would go. I had no plan. I just wanted to share information, and it kind of took off from there and created a life of its own.
So I want to ask you. You shared with us that you're on a path of recovery as well as I am. How did you know that you wanted to help other families by helping them intervene on their loved ones?
So I knew pretty early on that I wanted my whole life really to revolve around recovery. Like in my first year, I had this realization, you know, I spent my whole life not liking myself. I was a prisoner to my own brain and my alcoholism. And it was so challenging, you know, and I just did not like myself. I hated my life. I was so disappointed in myself. Like everybody else, I hurt everyone around me. I think everybody was baffled by, you know, my addiction and my habits. And I was just out of control. And when I got into recovery, I really started to grow up, and I started to gain this self-respect that I had never had before. And I felt so grateful that I was getting to be a good person, because I honestly never even thought I was capable of being a good person. I thought I was so horrible as an alcoholic. And most of my life, I just thought someday I would die a horrible alcoholic. You know, I never thought about having this opportunity to turn my life around and be different. So when I saw myself changing and growing into someone that I could love and respect, I knew really quickly that all I wanted to do was help other people do that. You know, that was my main thing. I knew if I could do it, like anybody could do it. and I just wanted to help other people do it. Shortly after that, the show Intervention entered my living room for the first time. And literally from the moment I watched the first episode, I scooted up to the edge of my couch, like to get closer to the TV. Right. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I am meant to do. Like, I just knew it was its own kind of lightning bolt moment. I knew that's what I wanted to do. And my whole trajectory kind of changed to become, what do I have to do to be an interventionist? And I'm a perfectionist, overachiever. So I was not the person that was just going to start telling people, oh, I'm an interventionist now, hire me. You know, I started reaching out to people across the country. I started learning. I started shadowing people doing interventions. I really invested a lot of time, money, and energy into my education to be very good at what I wanted to do.
Tell me, when you have a family reach out to you, Angela, and they say, we'd love for you to help us help our daughter, take me through the steps.
So, you know, typically there's a lot of conversation in that conversation. I have to collect a lot of information. Obviously, you're answering a ton of questions, because most people, their only exposure to intervention really is the television show. And where on one hand, that's really great because it does give an inside view. On the other hand, it can be a little negative too, because I think it tends to be a little more dramatic and it scares people. They don't really know what to expect. So there's a lot of questions and answers in that time. I collect a lot of information about the person, about the family, some of the history, behavioral things. The first thing I want to do is make sure that we're really dealing with a substance abuse issue, and that's the primary thing, because that's what I am capable of working with, right? I do not do interventions for eating disorders or sex addiction, gambling. I just don't have that education, right? So I will always refer those to other professionals that's their area of expertise. So I have to decipher all of those things. I have to see where the family is, how much work they've done on themselves, how much they understand the process, what they're willing to do also. And then we start moving forward with planning and finding treatment centers that could be good options for them. You know, there are letters to write, so we get into that process. I have templates for everything to keep that super simple. So the family always knows what they're doing, what step they're on, and what the next step is.
Right. And then you walk with them through the whole process.
Yeah, I do. I stay with them not only through the intervention, but I typically continue working with the family the whole time their person is in treatment. And a lot of times after, I'll help them figure out the aftercare plan when their person's coming out of treatment. But, when their person is in treatment, that's when we get to do some really good work on healthy boundaries, getting the family help of their own, and understanding enabling and codependence and all those behaviors that we all get caught up in. All that stuff is really common. But I always say too, it doesn't do you any good to send your person away to get help to come back to the same sort of broken system, right? Like everybody has to do some healing and everybody has to put time and energy into it.
With that being said, this disease is so cunning and baffling. People come to us for help, come to you for help, and then they don't want to follow through with the instructions and the help that you provide them. How do you keep from getting frustrated?
Well, I don't know that I do always keep from getting frustrated. But you definitely work with people where you have to have the conversation of, there has to be a little bit of separation. And the beauty of being an outside objective person is that I don't have all of the emotional history with the person, right? So we are really able to be peer to peer and have good conversation, one addict to another. But the family sees their child or their spouse or their parent, and that's a very different attachment, and I have to say, listen, I get this is your person that you love, but I promise you, I know how to tackle addiction, right? This isn't about the person you love. This is addiction. We have a situation that we have to address, and you have to allow me to do that because I know how to do that, and I'll walk you through it, and we will be careful. And of course, I don't want any harm to come to anyone either. And that's always the family's fear, is that something bad's going to happen.
Angela, I really like the way you laid that out. That's very tangible and understandable. Mm-hmm. So you have some other things going on too. You have Kansas City
recovery.
Kansas City recovery. So tell us about Kansas City recovery.
So Kansas City recovery is an absolute passion project that I love. I'm so in love with it. It's a men's sober living. I have 2 men's sober living homes in the heart of Kansas City. I'm the only privately owned and operated sober living in Kansas City that I just really set up a program, and I created a program based on my early recovery and what worked for me and what made my recovery fun. And I just created a culture that were exactly those foundational elements that were so important for me. And I just built some houses around the same principles, good, strong recovery principles. It's service work. It's fellowship, it's fun, it's a commitment to meetings and growing up and bettering ourselves. We do family style dinner once a month in each house. We have weekly meetings together. I'm very hands-on with the houses and with the guys there. I have incredible leaders. And at the same time, we lead together. Those guys are never having to figure things out on their own. When something's happening at the house, they call me and we walk through that process together so they can hear how I troubleshoot issues, and making sure that we're keeping safety first and foremost in our decision making and considering everybody. And, we make decisions together. We're a team.
You said you make decisions together. What's the advantages of making of not just one person making a decision, but a team of people making a decision?
So I think that when I think back on myself in early recovery, I wasn't the best person to be making decisions,
Yes.
I mean, and we are very instant gratification people. I just did a whole podcast episode about this. I had somebody say in one of my online recovery meetings that said, like, why are all my decisions bad? Like, I feel like everything I want to do, I have to do the exact opposite, and doing the opposite is always the right thing. And I said, because our thinking is just a little jacked up at that stage. We're instant gratification. We're not able to see the bigger picture and say, okay, what feels good is not always necessarily what's good. So just thinking on that premise, you have a bunch of guys in these sober living houses that themselves are 4, 5, 6 months sober, and they're trying to lead other addicted people. And we are challenging people. We are rebellious, we're obstinate, we're impulsive. So I think those guys have to have some guidance, right? They can't see big picture the way I can see big picture, and they don't always know all the details to take into consideration. So they do a phenomenal job. My leaders are incredible. I've always got great, great people. But I would never put that burden on them to try to lead a bunch of addicts who are going to want to fight back no matter what,
Yeah. Angela, I bet hearing what you're saying, and I really liked hearing 2 or 3 times you said your leaders in your organization. I bet these leaders reveal themselves and you don't even have to try to find them. Is that true?
Yeah, for the most part. I think being a natural leader, you definitely make yourself known in most situations. Yeah, because it is challenging. We're also in early sobriety. We're not the most confident people either. We don't trust ourselves so much. We've made a lot of mistakes. We've created a lot of chaos. We've hurt people. Yeah. So regardless of knowing what you're capable of, we all have to be taught. I still work with coaches. I have people that lead me and continue to teach me, and that's how we get better.
So I know that you're very active in the recovery world, in your own personal recovery. I really enjoyed visiting with you before Spotlight came on, and I had no idea that you spend so much time in LA.
Yeah, LA is my second home. My heart resides in LA for sure.
And is LA, if you don't mind me asking, is LA where you found your path of freedom from in recovery?
No, actually, I moved to Kansas City when I was 30, and that's when things kind of really got ugly, to be honest. 30, and then I got sober at 33. So those were my 3 hardest years, and I was in Kansas City.
That's great. That's great. And there again, we were visiting before. Your whole family's there in Kansas, except you said you have a brother in Denver.
Correct.
I really, really enjoyed the story you were telling me about every Saturday, you and your dad having breakfast together.
That's right. 8 a.m. every Saturday.
Was there ever, I'm sure there was times that your dad was worried about you.
Well, you
got into recovery.
I actually hid all of my drama from my family. Wow. So yeah, they didn't really know anything. I mean, my mom for sure understood that I drank too much. I think that was clear, but they never knew any time I was ever arrested. They never knew any time that I had been to jail or in the hospital. They really didn't know anything.
Yeah.
I had been on my own a long, long time and had been across the country. So it's not like I was still, reliant on my parents in any way,
Yeah. Well, we love spotlighting at Burning Tree people that are very in tune with the path of freedom and what recovery offers when we put the action forward. I'm very excited, and we're very blessed to have had you on today. I want anybody to, if you need anything, reach out to Angela. She's got a wealth of knowledge, and then her podcast. Speak a little bit about your podcast again.
So the podcast really has turned into this phenomenal thing. It is a combination of sharing personal stories. I do interviews with other people in recovery, and people doing really interesting things in recovery. I believe that as people with addiction, we are by far the strongest people ever built. And that's my passion, really, is to spread that message, because there's nothing we can't survive. We really are the strongest people. And I share a lot of those great stories with people, and then a combination also of coaching. I do solo episodes that are action steps, changing our thought processes, really like how to start to put your recovery together. Our current episode is, if I had to start over sober from day one, what would I do? And it lays out exactly what I would do, where I would put my energy and how I would prioritize it and how I would start putting my sobriety together.
Well, I want to thank Gary Kaufman for reuniting us. I know it's been a while since we saw each other, and we're very grateful for you to take the time to be on Burning Tree Program Spotlight. So thank you, Angela.
Thank you so much, Eric. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, you
and
too.
Don't say Gary's name too many times on here. His ego doesn't need all that. You're trying to make him famous.
Well, thank you, Angela. I'll remember that. Yeah, thank you. So, Burning Tree Programs. We've been around since 1999. Really enjoyed spotlighting Angela Pugh and her wonderful family-owned organization. Burning Tree has been around since 1999. Burning Tree Ranch was founded in Kaufman, Texas. We work with men and women in long-term treatment. Average length of stay is 8 to 14 months of residential stay with a year of transitions. Renewal Lodge by Burning Tree is in Elgin, Texas, outside of Austin. It is a clinically advanced mindfulness approach to the 12 steps. It is a in-network provider for all major insurance companies here in the United States. Awakenings Hill Country is in Fredericksburg, Texas, in the Hill Country. It is a program of women helping women achieve a life of abundance. It is headed up by Jessica, by the married couple, Jessica and Josh Slay, and we're very excited to have them as part of the Burning Tree Program family. And then in Tucson, Arizona, about a mile and a half east of the University of Arizona campus, is Burning Tree West. Tucson is the area where our founder, David Elliott, found his path of freedom. Burning Tree West is a young adult program with a collegiate track. We also have some sober living beds available there. So give us a call, Burning Tree Programs, 866-287-2877. And I want to thank Angela again very much for being on Spotlight. Have a great rest